Good evening and welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica. It is Thursday evening, November 17, 2022. Before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video, share it, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I post a brand new video. All right, so let's start out with the significant feature for this evening. We spoke of a trough yesterday that was located across portions of Haiti and Turks and Caicos and Cuba. Now it's located just to the west of Jamaica, still affecting portions of Cuba, now affecting portions of the Bahamas. And now it is starting to, interact with a cold front that is all the way over there over the Bahamas and affecting Cuba as well. So we shall see what happens with that over there. Moving on, let's talk about the weather across Jamaica today. So yesterday we forecast that we would have some rain across eastern, central, and western Jamaica, especially across portions of St. Elizabeth, Jamaica. And we indeed got that. So we just had the satellite image all the way into the evening. Lots of clouds, the winds blowing all the clouds from the east to the west, especially across portions of southwestern Jamaica. Even got some thunderstorms in there as well, as we could see on the Weather Nerd site. We know all these sparkling white dots represent lightning, even although we had a glitch this afternoon with the satellite images. No problem. All right, moving on. So according to the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology website, we saw where we had the rain. Just as predicted, we had rainfall across portions of eastern Jamaica, some rainfall touching the northern coast line as well. So portions of St. Mary, St. Anne, Trelawney got in on some of the rainfall, as well as portions of St. Catherine, Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, and even portions of Westmoreland got in on some of the rainfall this evening, this afternoon, rather. All right, let's talk about the forecast for tomorrow. Now, you guys must be wondering, why do I always show the windy website first? Guys, the wind direction and wind speed have a lot to do with the forecast for the weather. It has almost everything to do with the forecast for the weather across a certain area. The wind blows from east to west, easterly trades across the entire island. This is the forecast by the ECMWF. And we can see in the central and western portions of the island, that is where we have the blues. That is where we have the least amount of wind. And when we usually have that, that's where most of the clouds pile up during the afternoon for the afternoon convection. Okay? That is why some persons are saying, oh, why is it always the west that's getting all the rainfall? That's because of the easterly trades. If you want some of this afternoon rainfall, you're going to have to move out west. Okay, so the Euro is showing east to west motion across the island for Friday. What does the GFS show? Basically the same thing, and we see where we have the blues. The pileup of the clouds are going to be across portions of the hilly interior sections of central and western parachute. But what about when the thunderstorms develop? Where would they go? The wind shear map will show us what will happen. According to the wind shear map, this is 1 p.m. on Friday. We have the wind shear coming in from the southwest. Okay, so if anything should develop across the hilly interior section of Jamaica, we're gonna have most of it being blown off to the northeast, from the southwest to the northeast. So more than likely bringing overcast skies and showers to portions of St. Mary, St. Anne, Trelawney, St. James, Hanover, so on and so forth. We're not saying that some of these southern parishes can't get in on some of the rainfall, but most of the rainfall will be confined to the inland portions. So maybe northern St. Catherine, northern Clarendon, northern Manchester, northern St. Elizabeth. Portions of Westmoreland can get in on some of the rain as well. Okay, yesterday persons were asking, oh, what are eastern parishes, the central, western parishes? It's all right here, guys. I'm showing it all for your viewing pleasure so that you'll have the knowledge. And we all know what parishes are on the north coast and the south coast, just like what I said. The north coast is going to get all that southwesterly shear. So most of the overcast skies will be over that portion of the island. So let's continue, shall we? Looking at the forecast, we're going to see that at 3 a.m. according to the Euro, We're gonna have some rain starting to pick up, affecting portions of northern and eastern parishes. That's according to the Euro. What about the GFS? Almost the same thing. That's 3 a.m. That's when it starts. What about 9 a.m. tomorrow? We see that most of the rainfall is confined to eastern Jamaica, so portions of St. Thomas, Portland. That's according to the Euro. What about the GFS? Basically the same thing. St. Thomas, Portland. That's 9 a.m. and it actually started at 3. So anytime from that time onward, we could be getting some rainfall across those parishes. What about in the afternoon? This is 2 p.m. according to the Euro. We still have rainfall across the east. Some now affecting portions of central and western Jamaica. And just like what I said, most of the rainfall could be affecting majority of those parishes on the north coast. What does the GFS show? Same thing, eastern, central, and western parishes with a bias towards the northern parishes as well. What about 3 p.m.? Basically the same thing on the Euro, eastern, central, and western parishes. What does the GFS show? The same thing. So if you're going out tomorrow and you live in those parishes, please ensure that you bring an umbrella. Okay, all right. So considering all of this forecast, it makes sense that our workers here at Weather Jamaica made the forecast. Basically, the same thing that I just stated. It says here, according to the Jamaica's Twitter page, the ECMWF and GFS supercomputer models are in agreement that portions of eastern Jamaica could receive rainfall on the afternoon of Friday, November 18, 2022, also affecting sections of central and western Jamaica on Friday afternoon. Let's watch what happens. So basically, the same thing that was just mentioned. So let us look at the accumulated precipitation forecast. We see where there's a bias towards the northern parishes and central and western parishes, maybe even some of the east, according to this accumulated precipitation forecast. We see where all of this is in inches of rainfall, inches right here in bracket. So the green would represent anything from between 0.1 to 0.25 inches. Anything in yellow is 0.3 to, let's say, 0.5. Anything in orange, 0.5 onward. That's according to the Euro, though. What about the GFS? The GFS is a bit more robust, showing more rainfall across portions of the island. Either way, most parishes could get in on some of the rainfall. Not saying that everywhere in every parish could get in on rainfall, but eastern, central, and western parishes with a bias towards the northern coast. Okay, all right. So that's it for the forecast for Jamaica. Let us look at what was predicted for the 2022 Atlantic hurricane season. So by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, they predicted anywhere between 14 to 20 named storms. Colorado State University predicted 18 named storms. The Weather Company, that's the company that owns the Weather Channel US, predicted 17. What did we get so far? We got names all the way up to Nicole. That is what we got. That's about 16 named storms in total. And here are the tracks that we've had so far for 2022. And what about these things that passed throughout the Caribbean, south of Jamaica? We saw that we had Bonnie. This was the first one. Then we had Ian. And we saw the devastation and destruction that Ian brought to us, passing just south of Jamaica as a tropical storm. Then it strengthened to a hurricane and affected Florida. Next is Julia. Go far south, Julia passed, and we even got some sprinkles from her. And then finally, Lisa. So we don't have to be directly affected. We don't have to have the eye of a storm cross directly over us for us to be affected. You know how these things go. We are affected by tropical wave, tropical depressions, whatever the case may be. Especially the Eastern Caribbean that gets the brunt of these tropical waves sometimes. And they are very easily overlooked. But I'll be here to keep you all updated on what is happening, even if you're in the Eastern Caribbean. All right, moving on, let us look at the satellite images. Let me refresh this page quickly. This is why I don't use PowerPoint. I always use Google Chrome so that I have the most fresh images, the latest images. So we see where we have quite a mess across the MDR, lots of clouds stretching all the way from Africa towards South America, the northeastern portion of South America. No problem. All of that is being shear. It is the season for shear. The hurricane season is wrapping up, so we don't have anything developing. If we didn't have all this shear, definitely. But the hurricane season is wrapping up. We have lots more shear coming in from the west. So it's starting to wind down. We can also see we have some thunder showers across portions of Central America and some of that afternoon thunder shower across Jamaica this afternoon. According to the U.S. National Hurricane Center, as of 7 p.m. this evening, on this Thursday evening, still nothing expected during the next 5 days. That's good news. Let's talk about the vertical instability. What is this? Vertical instability is basically the atmosphere's ability to create thunderstorms, and a lot of it across the entire Caribbean. That's where we're looking at right now, the Caribbean. So this line is showing where we usually have the vertical instability, and we see where it has been below normal for majority of this hurricane season, and it is still below normal, still winding down as it should during this time of year, so no problem with that. And just as stated, the wind shear, 'tis the season. We see where the wind shear would normally wind down, come down according to this line graph during the peak months of the hurricane season, August, September, October. Then it starts to wind right back up in November into December, all the way through the first half of the new year. That's where we usually have the highest amount of wind shear across the Atlantic and the Caribbean. So we have less tropical activity, more tropical activity in the peak months of the hurricane season. It all makes sense. All right, so looking at the wind direction, looking at why we have less rainfall at this time across the majority of the Caribbean. We have high pressure right here, situated to the east of the Bahamas. So we have lots of strong northeasterly wind across portions of the eastern Caribbean, sending majority of the moist air and tropical waves to affect portions of maybe Trinidad, Venezuela, the ABC Islands, and even Panama and those southern islands or southern areas of Central America in general. And we can also see that on the Saharan earlier map. We're not seeing Saharan dust. All the Saharan dust is right there off the coast of Africa. What we're seeing here is a lot of dry air. So all of that's coming down with the east-northeast wind to affect portions of the Eastern Caribbean. You're not going to see lots of haze or anything like that, but it's dry air, so there's less moisture. And as you can see, most of the moisture and the clouds are associated, are affecting the same areas that I just mentioned, Trinidad, Venezuela, Panama, even affecting up to Honduras and Nicaragua. Looking at the sea surface temperature anomalies map, we still have a majority of the warmest waters across the western portion of the basin in the Atlantic. Even in the subtropics, still very warm up there to support tropical development. Still have a strong El Nino, but we're pretty sure that the El Nino is going to be dying down in the La Nina, sorry. We're pretty sure that the La Nina is going to be dying down by the time 2023 it gets here. Excuse me. Let's talk about the wind shear some more, shall we? So just like what was stated with the line graph that was shown, we see all those greens and reds and blues, lots of wind shear. We don't see all of that in August, September, and October. We have less wind shear. It's November now, so the tropical season is starting to wind down. Hurricane season is, shutting off. Flick a switch. The season is over. We wait until next year, July, August, for it to ramp back up. Let's just look at what the Euro is forecasting for the next 5 days, so we won't go out past 120 hours. We see where we still have some scattered showers, maybe brought about by a few troughs in the area, bring about some moisture, no problem. Nothing, no imminent threat, no circulation, no deep reds or yellows, anything like that. What does the GFS show? Basically the same thing. We see where we have a lot of moisture, however, coming into portions of Nicaragua and Honduras. It has already started, so we might have a lot of flooding across those areas. See that we're passing 120 back to 120. All right, so we have lots of moisture, probably going to be affecting portions of the eastern Gulf of Mexico. So areas offshore in boats and ships should be on the alert, also affecting portions of Florida as well. See, nothing, no imminent threat, but we still have some rainfall that could affect portions of the Eastern Caribbean. So islands such as St. Lucia, Barbados, St. Vincent, Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago could be affected by whatever comes our way from there, from that side, no problem. And as such, we have the accumulated precipitation for the next 120 hours. That's the next 5 days from now, November 17, all the way to the 22nd of November. We see we have some rainfall anywhere from 1 to, let's say, 2 inches, affecting portions of those same regions that were mentioned, also affecting portions of Panama and Central America, even in the Gulf of Mexico and Florida, the same areas that were mentioned. That's according to the Euro model. What does the GFS show? Basically the same thing, not so much in Florida, but the Gulf of Mexico, Central America, even portions of Jamaica, the Southeastern Caribbean as well. So that is according to tropicaltidbits.com. This is according to the Weather Nerds website. Don't be fooled. This isn't like a lot of rainfall. It's basically the same thing that was just shown on Tropical Tidbit. It's just a different website. Note that 1 inch of rainfall starts in red. Okay, so don't be fooled and think, oh, it's a lot of rain coming. No. 1 inch of rainfall starts in red. So 1 to 2 inches in purple, just like what was mentioned a while ago, according to the Euro model. The Eastern Caribbean, lots of rain across portions of Central America being forecasted all the way up to November 22nd. That's the Euro model. What does the GFS show? Basically the same thing. So just keep abreast and ensure that if you guys are flooded out, you have your plans in place, the necessary precautions that you're not affected, whatever the case may be. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Okay, all right.